Poland would be one of them. The people actually have been making a stand all along, and they've been pushing back on this thing, and they are now still pushing back. So to me, that's a place that would be at the top of my list, because at least the people know the truth and they're standing for the truth. There's a difference between knowing the truth but not making any stand for the truth. Like you see here in Latin America, there's no truth. Hey, thanks for coming to Frank and Angie's videos. All right, so in this video we're going to talk about 5 places. Somebody asked about 5 places where free people can exist in peace. No, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about, wait, I'm not sorry. All right, we're going to talk about 5 countries without the medical tyranny that somebody asked about. In the news, the Polish people are not taking mandatory, compulsory MASKS laws sitting down. They are protesting by the thousands. The headlines, of course, are insulting. They're just free people. The very relevant words of Patrick Henry on this subject that said something like, when a people forget God, what they get is bad government. And so the Polish are interesting because they're throwing off bad government and they're not forgetting God. So that's a really interesting point for me. And another relevant point is that the WHO came out with a statement. Now, I've seen a couple of these statements where they come out with statements like this from officialdom that sound like they're agreeing with the other side of this narrative, right? I'll tell you what the WHO has said, and then I'll tell you what is really happening. What they said is that they discourage nations from doing lockdowns because all it does is create poverty. So at least they are admitting that they're forecasting twice as much poverty globally because of the measures that are taken around the globe. And they are recommending that this is not really the best way to do it. But at the same time, they're also saying that in order to avoid that, why you should follow these other compulsory issues like contact tracing and all these other things and masks and such. Now, in negotiating, I want to tell you this. One of the things you do as somebody that's in business is you learn to negotiate. And this is why I see through this stuff. And what it's called is this particular negotiating strategy or gambit is called the decoy gambit. Yes, we're exposing the decoy gambit because it is being used by institutions, and after I tell you about it, you'll be able to recognize it too, and you can look up decoy gambit. But the decoy gambit does this. The negotiator puts out a false decoy. That's why it's called a decoy. So the decoy in this case would be the WHO agreeing, saying that, hey, this is a bad idea, and in order to avoid it, which is the real thing that they're after, and so they're putting out this decoy, but in reality what they really want is to gain those other points. And the other points being that, hey, you know, in order to not have to do this bad thing called the lockdown, we all need to do these other 2 or 3 things, which are the points that they really want to move forward on their agenda. So now you know that it is the decoy gambit, and I've seen this before, not just from the WHO, but other institutions in this sphere, which is pretty amazing. If you're observing this, which we are observing this around the globe, right? And this is why we're making a video about the 5 countries. Somebody asked about it, and of course, it's the first thought everybody gets. Oh, hey, where can we go to avoid all this nonsense? And what we're seeing is that this is a global thing that is being pushed around, and it's these players are very astute. And so, but without going into too much detail on that, we can name these 5 places, but remember that there's constant change and push going on in all places. I haven't actually vetted or confirmed any of these countries. It's just a rumor going around, so buyer beware. And I brought up Poland because it's up to the people to stand up to this kind of tyranny.
I think a storm is brewing up there.
Well, let me just name the places first. Poland would be one of them, because up until now, the people actually have been making a stand all along, and they've been pushing back on this thing, and they are now still pushing back. So to me, that's a place that would be at the top of my list, because at least the people know the truth and they're standing for the truth.
Chodzi po prostu o sam fakt, jak oni zarysowują tą całą pandemię, nie? To jest za bardzo nadmuchane. Ludzie normalnie z tym żyją. Niejednego miałem znajomego zarażonego, który mówi, że czuje się wspaniale, a jednak COVID u niego potwierdzili. A on mówi, że on może dzisiaj iść na trening.
There's a difference between knowing the truth but not making any stand for the truth. Like you see here in Latin America, there's no truth. The people don't seem to know anything, and if there are any that know anything, you don't see anybody making a stand for anything. There's clearly a lack of knowledge, and there's absolutely zero pushback in most of Latin America. If you are anywhere in Latin America where you know different, then please let us know in the comments. The others were parts of the USA, absolutely, parts of the USA. Sheriffs and such that are not going along, they've said they're not going to enforce, that's not their job, okay? And so Poland, parts of the USA, some people say Japan, and then Taiwan, and that's 4, and then Papua New Guinea has come up. And of course, Sweden should be on that list, so that's actually a bonus and number 6. So if you're in any of those areas, let me know in the comments what the scene is there as far as the strictness of it. But we see that in some of these places where they don't seem to be as strict, there's a renewed push to try to be strict. And so again, what stands out to me is the places where the people, very few minority places where the people are not standing for it and are pushing back on it. So that to me is the most important part, not necessarily a list of where things seem to be more lax at the moment. Again, I'm noticing things like this changing from locale to locale. There was an episode of somebody even in Mexico that was arrested recently, a young man that was trying to smoke, and of course he had to have his mask down, and he was arrested in Mexico for that. So I would be very leery and cautious of any kind of lists or videos or bloggers that are telling you go here because things are like this, because those things aren't necessarily going to stay like that. What's more important, just to reiterate the point, is how are the people reacting? That would be the telltale sign for me. And as a reminder, we are not anti-proper protective measures. We are definitely pro-choice, pro-voluntary responsibility and self-determination in our health matters. So, self-determination, that's an interesting word. And I want to tell you another saying from Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry is an amazing person. He's got an amazing history, and some of you may have heard some of his sayings, but I want to leave you with another saying of his, and that is, has there ever been in history, a place in history where, due to the benevolence of the leaders, people were able to consequently keep their freedoms? Has there ever been such a place or such a time in history? you know, you would have to do some research on history to know the answer to that, and a lot of you do know the answer to that, and you can tell me in the comments. The collectivists will always tell you that people's responsibilities and freedoms and free choice should be overcome for the good of the collective. Well, America wasn't built on that. So let me know what you think about that list and everything we've said in the video in the comments. Thanks for coming to our channel and have a nice day.